Hey, how's it going, all right? It's lovely here on the lands of the Yagara and Turrbal people. Lands never ceded. Got to get that treaty going, right? And by the way, I'm Fiona.
And for tax purposes in the state of Belize, I'm Jonathan. We're in the home stretch of innerVIVID. 2 videos to go. But maybe this is your first. Whatever, it's fine. In this video, we need to talk about baggage. We've noticed that travel videos get lots of hits, so we thought, let's get onto that. Wait, no, that's not it.
Since we've been chatting with you about all kinds of stuff that swirl about this spirituality thing, we need to give a wide eye-open look at the baggage that spirituality might have. Maybe that baggage has been on your mind already, so let's address the hell out of it.
Some people have given spirituality a bad name. Isn't that a reason to steer clear of it?
I'm going to be, well, not controversial, but I think what's given spirituality a bad name is the people who've perpetrated crimes against, people, that's what gives spirituality a bad name as opposed to the faith itself and what we do otherwise that's good.
Well, I think just about any entity can have a bad name associated with it for various reasons. And I don't think it's always a great idea to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So yeah, sometimes people have used spirituality to justify what I would consider to be not great decisions or not great actions. But I think what we've got to do is sort out what we think is the right way and the not so right way through all of this. And sometimes that takes an element of discernment or thinking, or if you're of that mindset, offering up your thoughts to your higher power or to your God to see what ideas might be offered to you to work through that. So I think there are always possibilities of bad things coming out of good ideas, but having the wisdom to know what to leave aside is the most important thing.
Who or what has given spirituality a bad name?
I think it's historical mismanagement. I think we're doing a good job now where we're thinking about diverse peoples and marginalised voices. And I think that we didn't do that as much under imperialism.
Sometimes people think of spirituality as something which focuses on an individual charismatic leader, and that leader is the leader of a cult and they'll milk you for your money or whatever. Or sometimes people think it's a bit wishy-washy. But I think spirituality should be life-giving. It causes us and calls us and enables us to be more than we would be otherwise, to be more generous, more creative, more present. So I think just because a few people have led people astray doesn't mean that we shouldn't say this is something of great value.
Who or what has given spirituality a bad name?
If spirituality is about what I get out of it, I think that's a bad name for spirituality. That's not what it's about, what it gives me. Cool. That's the vibe, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so. There's all sorts of things in our world that are uncomfortable or difficult, and I think we need to lean into some of these things because the wisdom of thousands of years in all sorts of different places suggests that digging around in that stuff ultimately leads to life. And so that's not a bad reason to give it a shot.
Spirituality is so important, and without a sense of spirituality, I really think that we're denying part of our humanity. In a way, denying our spirituality is like denying our sexuality or some other expression of ourselves that is innately human. And so I think, though, that we can ask wise questions about a form of spirituality that we engage in. And I think if its core, if its end purpose is to become a more loving person, more loving of ourselves, as well as more loving of other people and of the natural world, then that's a healthy spirituality. If it's a spirituality that requires us to harm ourselves or to harm others or to be hurtful or to be in isolation, I would say that's not a healthy expression of spirituality. And yes, it would be really wise to steer clear of that. Sometimes it can be hard to know. Sometimes we become confused, especially if this is something that we're exploring and we don't feel that we have a really deep understanding. And so I think to sound out, ask other people whose opinions we respect. No one has the right to tell us what kind of spirituality should be ours, but if we seek out wise people and that way we find the answers that we're looking for that resonate and sit well within ourselves, might be a helpful way to explore our spirituality.
To help us determine the worth of spirituality, here's a quick snippet again.
If its end purpose is to become a more loving person, more loving of ourselves, as well as more loving of other people and of the natural world, then that's a healthy spirituality. If it's a spirituality that requires us to harm ourselves or to harm others or to be hurtful or to be in isolation, I would say that's not a healthy expression of spirituality. And
Who or what has given spirituality a bad name?
I suppose some of the Yeehaw churches, people that want spirituality for money.
Is there anything that doesn't have a bad name, that someone hasn't given a bad name to somehow? I mean, nothing really is pure, nothing really is clean, nothing really is whole. So I think we should just get on with it. Yeah, spirituality has been given a bad name by all kinds of, terrible, groups or people or events. But I don't think that itself is a reason to kind of abandon the concept or abandon the term. I think it gets at essentially just the question of what it means to be human. I think human beings are spiritual creatures, and that doesn't entail any kind of metaphysical commitment. It just means that human beings are those creatures whose existence is a question for itself. And we're thrown into that question whether we like it or not. So we just should get on with it.
Who or what has given spirituality a bad name?
Oh dear. The right wing that tends to be well and truly too word of the Bible focused and not intent of the Bible focused.
When anything starts to be marketed, when it starts to be packaged, commodified in some way, then that's when we need to be really careful. I find myself being targeted, as most of us do, when we open our social media profiles on, this diet or this exercise plan, and they promise so much. And then you have to go deeper and deeper, answer lots of questions before they actually give you anything, and you realise that you're not going to get any information until you start paying something. And when it's about spirituality, when it's about who we are as people, how we connect, what meaning and purpose we have in life, then that is horrible and horrific. But that doesn't mean that engaging with our spirit, learning who we are and why we are, how we belong, what we believe, how we are to behave, should be completely written off.
Who or what has given spirituality a bad name?
I think it's being wishy-washy, not actually standing for anything, trying so hard to be accommodating that it's not really clear what you'd be signing on for.
There's a skill that human beings require now more than ever, I think, and that's the capacity to think critically and to reason critically the stuff that we're fed, whether it's advertising, whether it's the media that we're consuming, whether it's religious practices that people are asking us to follow. Critical reasoning is really important. We need to ask ourselves, what's the motive behind this? Why is this person asking me to do this? And if you're involved in a spiritual or religious organisation and you're thinking to yourself, this seems like they're in it for themselves. This seems like they're wanting me to hate someone or exclude someone. attend to those feelings. Listen to that. Use that critical reasoning. Being a religious person doesn't mean being a blind follower of something. And so all of those critical reasoning skills that we use in everyday life, we can apply to spirituality and religion as well. And we have to, because sadly, like in every other area of life, there are people out there who want to manipulate us or use us. Thankfully, they're very few and far between, but those critical reasoning skills are useful across the board, including when it comes to religion and spirituality.
I think sometimes Christians can be our own worst enemy. I think that's possibly the big issue.
Majority of Christians I knew felt like they were pushing an agenda rather than their own belief system. So I think Christians that don't really believe in what they preach give Christianity a bad name, I think.
There's always going to be one or two individuals who are going to spoil things. That's not a good reason to steer clear of it. Not when you see the difference it can make to such a large number of people compared to the one or two individuals who spoil it for others. So no, I wouldn't say that was a good reason to steer clear of it. Just steer clear of them. That's the easiest way.
I think that people should be cautious about, what groups or people that they might be taking spiritual advice from. So we know that there's groups out there that are seeking to exploit vulnerabilities in people in this particular area, which is why we get things like cults. It's always good to try to look to, I think, reliable organisations that have been around for a while and that are very open to being questioned and letting people, explore a bit about who they are before having to dive in.
That is an excellent question. I don't even know.
I come from the Bon Jovi generation where the great classic song, You Give Love a Bad Name, is still ringing in my ears when somebody says, you give something a bad name. But if you look at how John Bon Jovi wrote that song, it was about a particular situation. And I'm really saddened that there are countless people throughout history in our current world who not only give love a bad name, but also give spirituality a bad name. But you don't want to give up on love, do you? Like, you don't want to stop looking for that thing that does complete you. And I do think that there's a close correlation between love and spirituality. I'm really sorry for the times when I've actually given both love and spirituality a bad name, but I hope people haven't given up on me as somebody who could actually show love and demonstrate spirituality. So if you've had a bad experience, I would encourage you to keep looking, to keep asking questions, to keep searching, because there are people out there who will search with you, who do actually give spirituality a great name. And as many as there are that will give spirituality a bad name, there are countless more who will give it a great name.
A while back, I watched this film called Captured. It was a 1959 prisoner of war film made by the British Army to train soldiers about how to resist brainwashing methods in prisoner of war camps. Anyway, the Army banned their own film. They thought the film was so terrifying, no one would ever join the Army again. Well, maybe what we've been talking about here is not exactly the same, but we thought it a good idea to not just ignore the baggage. And people were helpful on this.
You could summarise by saying spirituality is worth giving a shot because it's part of what makes us humans. A lot of people think that, but do so with your BS detectors firmly switched on. Critical thinking is also a part of growing your spirituality. Turning your brain off is not what this is all about at all. In the end, as Stuart said,
you don't want to give up on love, do you? Like, you don't want to stop looking for that thing that does complete you.
That's kind of inspirational, right? What do you think?